Suppose it turns out that philosophical zombies actually exist. There are individual humans who do not have any subjective experience or selves. The question then becomes, why is that the case metaphysically? What metaphysics allow it so that certain individuals, such as myself, are actual conscious beings and others are not? Andres Gomez Emilson thinks that if P-zombies exist, this implies that we must live in a simulation. However, I disagree. Suppose that we were to track, throughout our entire evolutionary history, what beings are conscious and what beings are not. From the first self-replicating molecules to individuals in the present. Suppose we were to determine if each organism is a conscious being with a self or not. I think that the existence of selves and consciousness is binary. A conscious being either exists or it doesn't. I don't see how a conscious self can partially exist. People who are asleep don't count, because they still have full selves, in my opinion. If you believe in something like the SSA or SIA, and are randomly sampled from all conscious beings in some sense, and most of them are only slightly conscious, statistically, I should only expect to be a slightly conscious being. So say that selves existing are binary. Organisms are either conscious or they are not. And suppose that you believe that the first life forms were definitely not conscious. This would seem to imply that there must have been a first conscious being. At some point in our evolutionary history, there was a being with a brain that was only slightly different from that of all of the other organisms in its species, that allowed it to have a genuine self and qualia. One possible way this could be true is if what physical states allow for qualia to exist follows something like the one wrong number function. The relationship between the brains of conscious beings and the brains of unconscious beings is something like the relationship between the relation of human brains to chimp brains. Chimp brains have brains that are only slightly less optimized for technological intelligence compared to human brains. Similarly, for the first conscious being, the other organisms in its species may have had brains that are only slightly less optimized for qualia generation, and it may be even more extreme. So if one believes that every human is genuinely conscious, there must have been a world where P-zombies were a significant portion of the population at some point in history. in our evolutionary history, our evolutionary past. So if that's the case, the possibility that that time may be now, and this is the time in our evolutionary history where that state of affairs is the case, doesn't seem so implausible. Another possibility is that there can only be one conscious being. The numbers of things in all of reality with the lowest Kolmogorov complexity are 0, 1, or infinity. So in terms of the total number of conscious beings throughout all of reality, it is most likely to be one of those numbers. It can't be 0 because it has to be at least 1, because I'm a conscious being. Infinity is possible, but it's less likely if it turns out that P-zombies are actually true. If there are infinite consciousnesses, that would allow for all other beings to potentially be conscious. But if I am the only conscious being, they would necessarily be non-conscious, at least in the current moment. If there has to be only one conscious being, and my experience is linear, the only other possibility is that something like the egg is true. But if the egg is true, I still wouldn't necessarily have to be everyone. I would just be a select few beings.